Welcome to our noon edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's 22nd general election is just 3 weeks away. Voting for Koreans living abroad, though, has kicked off today. Those who have registered in advance can cast their ballots until next Monday at their local embassy or consular office. The government remains firm on increasing medical school slots by 2,000, though it did propose discussing next year's medical budget with the medical community. And the country's already lowest birth rate in the world is plummeting even further. The number of newborns in January recorded a fresh low, down 7.7% compared to the same time last year. We're just weeks away from the 22nd general election set for April 10th, and voting has already started today for Koreans living overseas. Those who have registered will have the chance to cast their ballots until next Monday in their local time zone at their local embassy or consular office. Our political correspondent Shin has the details.
The general election in South Korea is scheduled for April 10th, just 2 weeks from now. Overseas voting for Koreans living abroad began on Wednesday. However, overseas voting is only available for those who register in advance. Korean citizens without a permanent address in Korea can vote for proportional representatives in the assembly. Those with a permanent address may vote for both proportional and regional lawmakers. According to the National Election Commission, for the upcoming general election, nearly 148,000 overseas voters have registered, accounting for about 7.5% of the total overseas voters. This marks a roughly 35% decrease from the last presidential election in 2022 and a 14% drop from the previous general election in 2020. In the last general election, the turnout was the lowest ever at 23.8%, mainly due to the impact of COVID-19. By country, the highest numbers of overseas Korean voters are in the U.S. with over 33,600, followed by Japan and China. One overseas voter based in Sweden is hoping for a united National Assembly.
I hope the new parliament understands the issues facing society and remains united to solve problems. Seeing happy families in Sweden, I also hope South Korea works towards creating a fair environment where parents can equally share responsibility for their children.
Meanwhile, the ruling People Power Party's interim leader Han Dong-un is slated to address overseas voters on behalf of the party's satellite party, the People Future Party. Han's focus will be on boosting the rights and interests of overseas Koreans. He is expected to address measures for bridging gaps and reforming welfare, while also appealing for support at the election. The main opposition Democratic Party initiated its campaign last week, aimed at encouraging Koreans living overseas to vote. The party pledged to strengthen support for fostering the identity of overseas Koreans by increasing aid to Korean schools and expanding scholarships. It also stressed its commitment to providing them with the same level of administrative service as those available domestically. A total of 220 polling stations in 115 countries will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voters until April 1st. Shin, Arirang News.
The government isn't backing down from its original medical reform plan. The health ministry said it has asked ministries to hand in their budget plans by the end of May so that officials' plans to expand med school admission slots by 2,000 from next year go smoothly. While the president and prime minister have made clear that they are open to talks with doctors, the largest medical association in the country has elected a new leader who's made it clear that he's against this measure. Choi Soo-young reports.
The Korean government has once again made it clear that it will stick to its original plan to increase the medical school enrollment quota.
As of March 20th, we finalized the expansion of the country's medical school quota by 2,000 for the 2025 academic year, along with sorting out allocations for each school. We're moving ahead smoothly with the next steps, such as incorporating these changes into university admissions. The government will complete follow-up measures by May.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, South Korean President Yoon visited a general hospital in Cheongju, Chungcheongbuk-do province, and proposed that the medical field discuss the healthcare budget for next year. Prime Minister Han Dok-soo also met with medical school leaders to propose dialogue between medical sector stakeholders.
As the government, we will actively engage in dialogue with the medical and education sectors, trying to solve problems together.
Also, to facilitate talks, the government has postponed the suspension of doctors' licenses who have walked out in protest. The exodus of medical school professors nationwide continues. To show their solidarity with trainee doctors, on Monday, most of the country's 40 medical school professors submitted resignation letters, including almost 430 at Ulsan University and around 400 at Seoul National University.
Unless the government withdraws its plan to increase the medical school quota and allocation, this crisis cannot be resolved. We are ready to discuss all pending issues in front of the public, but I don't believe withdrawing the plan equals to eliminating the expansion entirely.
Amidst the confusion, a pediatrician Im Hyun-taek was elected on Tuesday evening as the new leader of the Korean Medical Association. However, there is speculation that may push for an even larger scale walkout because the newly elected individual has voiced opposition to the government's plan. To minimize disruption to patient care, the government says it will deploy an additional 1,900 physician assistant nurses alongside the current 5,000 deployed. Cho Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Business sentiment in South Korea rose slightly this month after a 3-year low was recorded in February. According to the Bank of Korea on Wednesday, the business survey index for all industries in March was 69 points, up by a single point from the month before. The index for manufacturing firms was also up by a point to 71 points. A BOK official said increases in chip exports and orders for semiconductor manufacturing equipment attributed to the index, while it was offset due to sluggish construction. The BSI measures business sentiment with a number below 100, meaning pessimists outnumber optimists. President Yoon has been on the road holding policy discussions with citizens. Tuesday's round was held in Cheongju of Chungcheongbuk-do province. The president pledged to make that region a leading biotech base. Promising a drastic increase in R&D investment, Yoon laid out his plan to create the nation's own Boston biotech cluster around Cheongju. Kim Do-yeon with more.
South Korea is looking to foster its advanced biotechnology industry's manufacturing capacity to 200 trillion Korean won by 2035. That's according to President Yoon on Tuesday as he held a policy discussion with citizens on the topic at the nation's bio-industry concentrated region of Cheongju, Chungcheongbuk-do province.
더욱이 지금은 첨단 바이오 분야가 전통적인 생명과학과 보건의료를 넘어 에너지, 소재, 식품, 환경을 비롯한 산업 전반에 혁신을 일으키고 있습니다. 또한 우리 인류가 직면한 여러 난제를 풀어가는 데에도 첨단 바이오 기술이 반드시 필요합니다.
He added that by that year, there will be 1,000 new startups in the industry annually with the government's support. Also, the government will be looking to aggressively invest in R&D of advanced biotechnology, including digital bio, which combines the AI, digital, and bio sectors. He pledged that the nearby county of Osonggun, which hosts the nation's Food and Drug Safety Ministry and relevant bio companies, will be the next Boston cluster. This also includes attracting legal and consulting industries to the region, which would further develop the region in general. In addition, he said, the make-or-break aspect of advanced biotechnology depends on how data are handled, pledging to create a biodata platform that integrates various biodata systems, providing services that researchers from industry, academia, research institutions, and hospitals want and need. He also spoke on the next pandemic, which he says many experts think is inevitable.
우리가 이제 이 백신 기술에 대한 우리 백신 주권을 이제 확보하기 위해서 또 다른 팬데믹이 오더라도 신속하게 우리 국민의 체질에 맞는 백신을 개발하기 위해서 일단 mRNA 이 백신 개발에 착수할 것입니다.
In the meantime, he also emphasized the importance of local public education in the region. He said a specialized high school in the bio industry will be open to foster talent in the field, while Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology's local campus will work with local government for educational opportunities. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korean chipmaker SK Hynix will invest around $4 billion to build an advanced chip packaging facility in the U.S. state of Indiana. According to the Wall Street Journal on Tuesday, the plant will specialize in stacking standard dynamic random access memory chips to create high bandwidth memory before they're integrated with NVIDIA's GPUs. The report said that the facility is expected to begin operations in 2028, adding 800 to 1,000 new jobs in the area. SK Hynix will receive a number of related financial support packages, including tax incentives. The move also comes as SK Group Chaetaewon met with U.S. President Joe Biden in 2022 and pledged to invest $22 billion in U.S.-based semiconductor, green energy, and bioscience projects. Another key challenge in economics is rising food costs caused by inflation. Already a month into the new academic calendar, many university students in Korea are struggling to keep their wallets shut. Our Park Kwon-woo went to find out how hard it is for students these days to get by and how they're dealing with this issue.
At 8 a.m. in a cafeteria inside a university located in Seoul, many students start lining up to have their breakfast.
The meal here is only 1,000 won. I come here pretty much every day of the week.
This meal, which costs only 75 cents under a governmental project, so that students can get a healthy breakfast at a reasonable price, is one way university students in South Korea are lowering food expenses at a time of high prices. But as the only meal available under this program is breakfast, and as data from Statistics Korea showed that dining out prices rose 3.8% on year in February, marking 33 straight months of increases, students are figuring out other ways to cope.
Convenience stores are another option for university students who want a cheap meal. This lunchbox costs around 5,000 won, or in US dollars, about $3.70.
And convenience stores are also launching promotions to make such food items even cheaper. But students I spoke to said it is not easy for them to budget for food.
After entering university, there are occasions where I have to eat out and drink in order to make more friends.
Freshmen are spending more due to social gatherings where they can make new friends.
I spent about $750 this month as I participated in gatherings and as people tend to order and spend more at those gatherings because we usually split the bill.
Some said they make their own food at home, or sometimes even skip meals when they do not have engagements to lower expenses. One concerned professor said more support is needed.
The government should be actively supporting university students who are our future workers, although they might not have income right now.
She added, local governments should support restaurants near universities, including helping with electricity bills so that they could lower food prices, and that those restaurants should be monitored to ensure they do so. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea's demographic crisis is not getting any better. The number of newborns plummeted to another fresh low for the month of January. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin walks us through the latest figures.
The number of births in South Korea dropped again in the first month of the year. Data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday shows that the number of births came to 21,442 in January, down 7.7% compared to the same month last year. That's the lowest on record for any month of January. The number of deaths came to 32,490, falling 0.5% compared to the previous year. But the officials said the drop is mostly due to the COVID-19 pandemic-related deaths that were reported in January 2023, and that the agency expects to see an increase in the number of deaths in the future due to South Korea's aging population. With the number of deaths once again exceeding the number of births, the decline in natural population, calculated by subtracting the number of deaths from the number of births, came to some 11,000. South Korea has now seen a drop in its natural population for 51 consecutive months, and the agency expects to continue to see a decline in the coming months. The number of registered marriages, however, rose 11.6% to some 20,000. And the number of divorces was also up 9.5% to nearly 8,000. The agency said that the on-year rises were mostly because there were more working days where people could register their marriages and divorces in January this year compared to last year when Seollal, or the Lunar New Year, was in the first month of the year. He added that further observation is needed to see whether there will be an uptick in the number of marriages this year. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S. state of Maryland, a cargo ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore on Tuesday. The U.S. Coast Guard is still looking for 6 road crew members who are working on the bridge. Shin Se-byuk with the latest.
On Tuesday, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, U.S. collapsed after a massive cargo ship, which officials say lost power, crashed into it.
A Singapore-registered vessel with the name Dali, D-A-L-I, which made contact with the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland at around 1:30 a.m. this morning.
2 people were pulled from the river below following the accident. One was rescued with no major injury and the other was taken to hospital reportedly in a serious condition. The U.S. Coast Guard on Tuesday evening suspended search and rescue efforts for 6 members of a road crew who were working on the bridge until early on Wednesday due to impending weather conditions. According to an official from their construction firm, the missing workers are presumed dead, considering the depth of water and length of time since the collision. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said in a briefing on Tuesday that the vessel signaled a problem with its power, leading authorities to stop traffic on the bridge between the ship's mayday call and the collision, noting the warning likely saved lives. The port of Baltimore, where the Key Bridge was positioned, stands as the U.S. premier hub for automobile imports and exports, as it's deemed a key entry point to the eastern U.S. and the Atlantic Ocean. In the aftermath of the disaster, the Maryland state government declared a state of emergency and put an indefinite hold on port operations, potentially impacting the domestic auto supply chain. Following the accident, U.S. President Joe Biden held a briefing where he said he would visit Baltimore at the earliest opportunity. He reassured the public that although investigations into the cause of the accident are ongoing, there is no indication of terrorism.
At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here.
Biden stressed the importance of concentrating on search and rescue efforts at this time, with plans to promptly move forward with bridge reconstruction. He also pledged that the federal government will pay the full cost of rebuilding the Key Bridge and asked for the cooperation of Congress in this matter. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
On to sports. South Korea's men's national football put their recent struggles behind them Tuesday night with a 3-0 win over Thailand in their World Cup qualifier match in Bangkok. The win was all the more significant as the 2 footballers who scuffled in last month's Asian Cup connected to produce a goal. Lee Seung-jae has more.
After a disappointing 1-1 draw in front of a sold-out crowd in Seoul last week, the South Korean national football team took on Thailand again on Tuesday night, this time in Bangkok. The team looked much more composed in the return World Cup qualifying fixture, cruising to a 3-0 victory. The Taeguk Warriors took the lead in the first half when striker Jo Kyu-sung's close-range shot in the 19th minute was tapped in by Lee Jae-sung. Captain Son Heung-min scored in his second straight match after the break to give South Korea a 2-0 lead. And who better to link up with Son for the second goal than Lee Gang-in, who was mired in a controversy after the AFC Asian Cup last month when it was reported that the two scuffled over a game of table tennis a day before their semi-final match against Jordan, which led to an injured finger for Son. Lee suffered heavy criticism from fans for what they said was inappropriate behavior toward the highly respected Son, which led to a public apology from Lee after he joined the national team last week. But it seems they have put their troubles behind them as they celebrated the second goal of the match with Lee jumping into the arms of Son. Hyundai FC midfielder Park Jin-sup, a second-half substitute, marked his international debut with a goal to make it 3 and seal the win. The win means South Korea now lead Group C with 10 points after 4 matches, while Thailand dropped down to 3rd in the group. China are 3 points behind and second in the group following a 4-1 win over Singapore last night. South Korea plays both Singapore and China in June. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. Russia's top officials have directly accused the West and Ukraine of being involved in the deadly concert hall attack just outside of Moscow that killed at least 139 on Friday. While the Islamic State claimed it carried out the attack and released footage of the atrocity, Russian authorities said the jihadists were assisted by Western intelligence. Russian President Vladimir Putin said in a televised meeting on Monday that we want to know who ordered it, while acknowledging radical Islamists' involvement in the attack. Following Putin's comments, Russia's Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev on Tuesday, when asked whether the Islamic State or Ukraine was behind the attack, said of course Ukraine. The head of Russia's Federal Security Service, Alexander Bortnikov, also on Tuesday, went further to say that while IS carried out the attack, it was obviously facilitated by Western special services, saying that Ukraine's special services had a direct connection to the attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denied Ukraine's involvement, saying Putin was talking to himself again. Again, he blames Ukraine, a sick and cynical creature. 15 days before the attack, the US had warned Moscow of an imminent extremist attack on Russia. China on Tuesday denied the US and UK's accusations of Beijing being behind large-scale cyber espionage targeting journalists, corporations, government entities and activists. The denial comes after the UK on Monday imposed sanctions on 2 Chinese nationals and a company, while the US charged 7 Chinese individuals for cyber attack campaigns. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said at a daily news briefing in Beijing that this is a typical political manipulation and that the US and UK once again hyped up the so-called Chinese cyber attacks. The US Justice Department on Monday charged 7 hackers of Chinese nationality who are allegedly members of the Chinese state-affiliated cyber espionage group nicknamed the Advanced Persistent Threat Group 31. APT 31 began its campaign in 2010 with intention to report and harass critics of the Chinese Communist Party and engage in corporate and political espionage. The British government imposed sanctions on 2 Chinese nationals and Wuhan Zhaoruzi Science and Technology Company, which the UK alleges to be working for the APT 31. Now moving over to northwest Pakistan, a suicide bomber rammed an explosive-laden car into a vehicle carrying Chinese workers on Tuesday, killing a total of 6 people. 5 Chinese nationals working as construction workers and engineers on a dam project died, as well as their Pakistani driver in the attack in the district of Shangla. The 5 Chinese engineers were working on the Dasu Dam, Pakistan's biggest hydropower project. The attack comes less than a week after a vehicle carrying Chinese citizens came under fire from Baluchistan Liberation Army militants outside a Chinese-funded Gov't port in the volatile southwestern Baluchistan province. Thousands of Chinese laborers work in Shangla as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, an area of significant investment as part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Over the past 2 days, a joint operation by Colombian and American authorities has seized over 5 tons of cocaine in 2 anti-narcotics operations. The Colombian Armed Forces and the United States on Monday stopped a vessel carrying over 3.3 tons of cocaine hydrochloride after a high-speed chase at sea off the coast of San Andres Island. On Tuesday, authorities seized 1.7 tons of cocaine hidden in boxes of avocados in the coastal city of Santa Marta. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good Good afternoon. Those in southern provinces had a rough morning to start the day with dense fog. Conditions have improved and highs are rising fast, going 2 to 9 degrees Celsius, higher than Tuesday afternoon. We had chilly morning temperatures, so there will be wide temperature swings between lows and highs. Some parts could have a 15 degrees difference within a few hours, so do dress accordingly so as not to come down with a cold. But overall, we can't complain much about the weather today. Expect fine early spring weather this afternoon under mostly sunny skies with decent air quality nationwide. Seoul and Busan will hike to 16 degrees, Gwangju topping out at 19 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Then there is another round of rain in the forecast tomorrow, starting in the west and Jeju spreading nationwide by the afternoon. Then more calm and promising weather in store from Friday with spring flower blooming season right around the corner. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for you at this hour. We'll bring you more updates at the same time tomorrow.